For this next section, we want to label this Mesopotamia. So over here in the left-hand margin, you're going to notice, first of all, I am writing over this little red line, and that's fine, but I do want to create some white space. So I'm going to have Mesopotamia. And now with Mesopotamia, I'm going to underline this. This is a section. This is going to be a particular section within our book that everything is going to fall underneath this as well. So let's take a look now at the text. And again, we want to focus on reading and then questioning. So we're going to read the paragraph and then ask, what is this paragraph about? We're going to write down 2 to 3 details that support kind of that idea. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to go over to the text. I want to show you what that looks like. So here's our text. It says Mesopotamia. Where were the first cities located? Where was the first school? These developments took place in Mesopotamia, a word that means between the rivers. As the map on page 301 shows, Mesopotamia was located between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. This region was part of the Fertile Crescent, a crescent-shaped area of rich soil that curved from the Mediterranean Sea to the Persian Gulf. Okay. I think it's a little bit out of view. There we go. So now what we want to do is we want to ask, well, what was this paragraph about? This paragraph was about the place that was the first to have schools, where the first cities arose, and that's going to be Mesopotamia, and then it gives us the geographical location. Okay, so let's start writing down some notes, shall we? Mesopotamia. So first of all, means between the rivers. And it's located between 2 rivers, and those are the Euphrates and the Tigris, or Tigris. And we also have the idea that it's part of the Fertile Crescent. And I do need to make this a capital F. It's a proper noun. And again, the Fertile Crescent curved from the Mediterranean Sea to the Persian Gulf. Okay? That's why it's called a crescent. Okay. Any other facts or details? We can even say first schools and first cities. So right there are a couple facts or details that I was able to get from that paragraph. You can tell it does take a little bit of time, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that it's meaningful information. Now what I can also do is I can go online, I can find some pictures. This is an example of a picture of Mesopotamia. So I'll bring that into view for you. And if I have glue or if I have tape, I can put these right into my notes. You may have to leave a little bit of space if you want to try something like this. Otherwise, one of the things that you can always do is you can try to trace in whatever was on your textbook. You can do that by placing your paper over the map and then try to trace it out that way. That's fine as well. So you can see right here, now I have Mesopotamia, and I can see where Mesopotamia actually is. I can see that this is the area of the Fertile Crescent. Okay. So the last thing that I need to do is over here in my margins. Now that I'm taking my notes, I should have like the words Mesopotamia, civilization, and probably Fertile Crescent. From here, I'm going to continue taking notes, and I'm going to read the next chapter. The next chapter says around 4500 BC, which stands for before Christendom, or you can say before Common Era, BCE. So around 4500 BC, wandering people began settling along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. There, they farmed the fertile soil left behind by yearly floods. To help control the floods, farmers built dirt walls and an irrigation system of ditches to channel the water to their fields of barley, wheat, and fruit trees. A 12-month calendar based on the phases of the moon was developed to better predict the coming of the floodwaters. The plow was used for the first time, which made it possible to grow more food with less effort. With a steady food supply, the population grew larger. So this is kind of about the first settlement and what allowed it to develop. And if you remember in our notes before, we said a civilization is going to have technology. And you can start to see that they benefited from floods, and they benefited from the technology or the idea of agriculture. Instead of herding animals, they started to raise their own crops, and they had stability with it. And then to make things more predictable, they created a calendar. And then from a calendar, they've also developed new technologies to help plow the fields, to get more food. And as they had more food, you could have larger families, you could feed more people. So let's get into, well, what is this paragraph about then? It's kind of like settlement and technology. So in my notes, that's what I'm going to write my notes as, settlement and technology. As you can see, I'm not perfect. Technology. And again, this is really about, well, what are you connecting to? What are you finding? So settlement and technology kind of makes sense to me. So we have 4,500, need 2 zeros there, BCE, settled. And we probably want to get into the reason of why it's settled. It was settled because it had very fertile fields, right? So I'm going to put down like BC fertile fields. And I can say rivers flooded. Okay, and that's what's created the fertile fields. Rivers flooded. Made fields, F-I-E-L-D-S, fertile. And of course, because of this, we're going to have to do some things. We're going to have to control the floods. And you're probably wondering, well, how are they going to do this? They're going to build those dirt walls. Those are called levees, and I don't think it says it here in the book, but we definitely want to get that information down. I'm not going to put it in here yet because we're going to go back to it in class. Control floods with dirt walls, irrigation, ditches, and we developed a calendar, to predict floods. And this was, again, 12-month. This was a zodiac calendar. And then we also have plows. And of course you should know what a plow is. It helps break up the soil. So I'll show you guys some videos on that later on. But settlement and technology, and the big idea here is this: it allows the population to grow. More food, more people. Okay? So this is a little bit about the technology. So over here on the side, oh, my apologies too. Here I am writing and you can't see everything. I did not realize that. So right here what I want to do is I want to add in technology. Because we do find some of the technologies right here that they created. We have a calendar. We have the plow. We also have irrigation ditches. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that's essentially how you're going to be taking down your notes. If you need to find extra videos, you can of course find those online, or pictures even to supplement your materials. That's fine. But you really want to read over the paragraph and then ask, well, what is the main idea? Some of these are going to have a little bit more details than others. You don't have to write down everything. It does say what they also grew, for instance, barley, wheat, and fruit trees. If you want to get into the food types, I think that's fine. We're going to be looking at some of those details a little bit more closely later on in class. So I opted not to put those in here, but I wanted to focus in on that technology idea and the settlement. And the big one right here, more food equals more people. All right, I think you have a basis now for the notes. Hit it, have fun with it.